All right, welcome in, you guys. One Piece chapter 1152 brief spoilers dropped early on a Monday. We already had a full-on discussion video about them, but here today, since we have this odd day in between the brief spoilers and the extra spoilers, I figured that we might as well just sit down together and look through the comment section from the previous video, just to see what everybody thinks about this upcoming chapter, to see what everybody thinks about Harold being killed by his own soldiers, about Shanks having the Mark of the Abyss, and about needing Conqueror's Haki to fight the Holy Knights. So, let's get into it. I've already sorted these comments from top to bottom. We're just going to work our way through until it feels about right to end the video. So right here, the top comment minus my pinned comment, they say, gathering a crew of Conqueror's Haki gave me huge Rocks crew vibes. A crew of not friends, but just a crew with the ability to overthrow the Holy Knights, world government, and etc. Yeah, I mean, that's what it boils down to, right? Because Conqueror's Haki is what you need to hurt the Holy Knights, a majority of the Straw Hats aren't going to be the ones who take on these guys. So if not the Straw Hat crew, minus, Luffy and Zoro, then who? And I do turn to the list of confirmed Conqueror's Haki users that we already have. The Doflamingos, the Boa Hancocks, the Captain Kids, right? So I'm excited for that. Will Oda actually go down that route? I'm not too sure, but I do think it is possibly the best way to bring characters like those back into the series and make them relevant again. Like thinking about Boa Hancock, right? Last we saw, Blackbeard attacked her homeland, and then Boa Hancock was like, oh, I gotta leave the island now. Where do I go? Luffy. Well, if Boa Hancock does come to Luffy, Holy Knight fight candidate right there. All I gotta say. And then we do know that Kid is off the coast of Elbaf if he's still alive, so he could show up here and also learn how to hurt the Holy Knights, as wacky as that sounds. So yeah, I do think this gives off huge Rocks crew vibes, and honestly, I'm all for it. I just hope that Oda gives a decent role to the rest of the Straw Hats who cannot fight the Holy Knights, right? If they're not fighting the Holy Knights, hopefully the rest of the crew can fight someone else or do something else that is important, but we'll see. So, next comment down below, they say, Kaido's quote about Haki ruling over all is looking pretty accurate right now. Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind with Kaido is that he was present at God Valley, right? He was there along with Roxy Zebek, Roger, Garling, and all them. So I think that is why he said that. That is why he dropped that line even. Because he knows that there's some powers you can't really overcome without Haki. So this next comment says, when Shanks lost his arm, he told Whitebeard that he betted on the future. I think that when Shanks found out that the Nika fruit chose Luffy, since the fruit has a will of its own, Shanks knew it was almost a prophecy and chose to sever his ties with the WG right then and there. I like that. This really does bring into context the whole Lord of the Coast scene, which is kind of funny, right? Like, for the longest time, a lot of people have been memeing on it. Like, oh, dude, if Shanks is like, worth 1 billion berries back then, why did he lose an arm? If Shanks doesn't have a devil fruit and he can fight in the water, how did he lose an arm to the Lord of the Coast? If he has Conqueror's Haki, why didn't he do something beforehand, right? I think Shanks betting that arm on the future is a great retcon. I think it is fantastic. And now I'm just kind of curious to see what the mark was like beforehand. How did Shanks utilize the Mark of the Abyss before it got ripped away? I think there's still a lot of things about this mark I'm curious about. But either way, I do just absolutely love the fact that Shanks betted on the future by betting on Luffy. On to the next one. They say, Lord Farquaad in full effect. Okay. I read one comment about my hair looking like Lord Farquaad when it's dry, and now I just can't avoid these damn comments, man. It's like a canon event, damn it. So, this one says, might have just accidentally gave a theory on why the Rocks pirates formed and went to God Valley. Yes, because a lot of the Rocks pirates do have confirmed COC, so that could be it right there, right? Rocks needed Kaido because he's one of the few people out there in the world who can actually hurt the Holy Knights. Same with Whitebeard, same with Big Mom, and I wouldn't be shocked if like other characters in the Rocks crew had Conqueror's Haki, like maybe Wang Xi, maybe Shiki and all them. See, I like that. Next comment, they say, Kaido said that Luffy's use of Conqueror's Haki was still sloppy, so now he just has to find out the way to refine it. Yeah, and funny enough, I thought about this and I was like, oh, maybe Luffy doesn't find out how to refine it in this arc, in Elbaf. And then I remembered Wano. Dude, I remembered Wano, I remembered Whole Cake, and it's like, brother, Luffy learns so fast. Luffy learns in the heat of battle. He's like a damn Saiyan, you know what I mean? Like, in that fight against Katakuri, he saw Future Sight, he unlocked Future Sight. In Wano, he was in Udon Prison. He heard about Ryuo, and he learned it that very same day. Conquers Haki coding. He saw it, he did it that same fight. Brother, Luffy's a prodigy. It sounds weird to say, but Luffy truly is a fighting prodigy. So yes, if Scopper just gives him some guidance, saying, oh, you want to do this with your Conqueror's Haki to perfect it, then Luffy is probably just going to unlock that in under an hour, if we're being quite honest. I guess the main question comes down to Zoro now. Like, how will Zoro be able to refine it? Because Zoro, when it came to his advanced Conqueror's Haki, it kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere, or at least that's how I felt, right? He was fighting King, and then all of a sudden, boom, black lightning everywhere, and then King's injured, and it's like, wait a minute, did Zoro actually mean to do that, or was it just, like, accidental? But yeah, I think they will refine it, and I think this could be a nice mini time skip training arc, like after the Holy Knights leave Elbaf, maybe the Straw Hats all sit down and have a little kumbaya and talk about how to get stronger. I think that'd be really cool. I do think if they were to train together, Elbaf would be the best place to do it because Elbaf is the land and home of warriors. But I guess that all kind of hinges on whether or not Elbaf is still around by tomorrow. Because it's hard to imagine, at least for me, it's hard to imagine Imu losing here, right? Because Imu wants to dominate Elbaf. Imu wants to take over the island. So how's it going to play out, right? I'm still curious. So, next comment, they say, ooh, this is a bigger one. My initial theory to Gabon calling Shanks the Destined One is that Shanks is meant to carry on the will of Nefertari D. Lily, both powerful and important celestial dragons who sided with the Nika of their generation and betrayed the world government to aid-guide Joy-Boy-Luffy against Imu. Lily did this by spreading the poneglyphs and protecting the ancient history so that Joy Boy wouldn't be lost in history, and Shanks did this by sacrificing his arm, permanently severing his ties to Imu and the world government, and giving Luffy the Straw Hat, encouraging him to become the great pirate after he discovered that Luffy inherited Roger's will, while secretly watching on as Luffy would eventually become this generation's Nika. Yes, and, thinking back about Shanks and his role in the story as the Destined One, it now makes me look at that scene even harder. The scene where Shanks says, hey, Ben Beckman, it's time to go after the One Piece. Because right before he says that, do you know what he's looking at? He's looking at Luffy's wanted poster. He's looking at Gear 5th Luffy in the news. So I think that's the big trigger there. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Shanks is even passing down the title of Destined One to Luffy, right? Maybe Shanks saw Luffy eat the devil fruit, and he's like, you know what? Maybe I'm not the Destined One. Maybe it's actually him. But yeah, I think this is all about inherited will, and Shanks definitely inherited somebody's will. Whether it's Nefertari D. Lily, whether it's Joy Boy, I do think Shanks is going to be pivotal when it comes to overthrowing Imu. I think Shanks went to the WG with the intentions of infiltrating it, but Imu asked him to take the mark as a sign of faith that he wouldn't backstab them, and Imu could control him if he ever did. Shanks figured out that the world government got the fruit, so he steals it and tries to plan his next step. Luffy accidentally eats it before he comes up with a plan, and he thinks up on the spot that he'll trust Luffy and let the sea monster eat his arm to get Imu off his back, since we obviously know that Shanks could have easily obliterated that thing. The reason he's basically been hanging around not doing much was because he knew about the Sun God Nika story that's on the tree, and he knew he needed to stall until Luffy was strong enough. That's why he stopped the war at Marineford, because he knew if they kept going on, the Holy Knights would have gotten summoned and no one would have survived. I like that. And I wonder, based off of these spoilers, we are all, myself included, we're all under the assumption that the mark is on the arm that Shanks lost against the Sea King, right? But what if Shanks still has the mark? The leakers didn't confirm it was that arm exactly yet, so there is like a small 1% chance that Shanks has it on his other arm, or maybe even if the arm gets eaten, he still has the mark, right? Because it's a magical mark, so maybe it doesn't just go away when you lose the arm. I don't know, but yeah, I do wonder what abilities Shanks also got from that mark in general. Like, did Shanks have the ability to teleport with the Abyss Circle? Did Shanks have a monster transformation like the Gorosei? I don't know, man. I'm excited to see what that really entails. And imagine if Shanks still has those powers. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But yeah, I do agree, though. I think that Shanks definitely is entrusting Luffy with a lot right here. And Shanks will, you know, he'll bend over backwards to make sure that Luffy succeeds. Next comment, let's see here. They say, I think the reason why we don't see the mark on Shanks' hand in episode 1 is probably because Oda-san didn't plan for this plot twist by the point he created chapter 1. This is most likely a retcon from Oda's part, which is totally fine for me, really. Yep, I agree. I do not mind retcons as long as they fit in well, and I think this does fit in pretty well. As far as why we don't see the mark, I personally think it can all come in all shapes and sizes. That's my headcanon right now. And obviously, when we get the full chapter, we will see what's actually going on there. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's like really small, right? Because Saint Somers, man, Saint Somers' entire arm was covered. So maybe Shanks is like half that size. Maybe Shanks got like a smaller mark of the Abyss on his shoulder even. I think that could be the case. And I do wonder, like, since Somers and Shanks would have the same mark, what would that say about Gunko, for example, right? You know, we're saying that, or at least we're making the assumption that when Shanks lost the arm, he lost his connection to Emu. So could it be the same for Gunko? Like, if we cut Gunko's arm off, we sever it, we sever the mark of the Abyss, then would we be able to save her? That's kind of where I'm going right now. And also, the Holy Knights and the Gorosei, they have regeneration. So does that mean that Shanks could have regenerated his arm when the Lord of the Coast ate it? Or did the Lord of the Coast use advanced Conqueror's Haki when he snapped that thing, right? I don't know. I wish we could get like Shanks' POV from this, brother. When will we actually spend time with that guy? I have no clue. Shanks, letting the... Dude, these are all Shanks comments. Like 90% of these are all Shanks comments. That's crazy. I was expecting some Loki, I'm not gonna lie. Shanks, letting the Lord of the Coast eat his Abyss arm is a big middle finger to the world government. This one says, I can already see the meme of Giga Zoro with his hand on Sanji's shoulder with Luffy behind him. No, dude. They did Sanji so dirty with that one. But, hey, I'm one of those guys. I always believed in it. I do still think Sanji will get Conqueror's Haki, but until then, it will be a big meme. You know, Sanji saying, oh, it's me? I'm the Conqueror's Haki user? Like, dude. Oh my god, that's so painful. And the craziest part is that Scopper is the one setting him up like this, too. You know, Scopper is the one who ignores Sanji and goes to Zoro. And it's like, Scopper, wait! Sanji's your parallel! Don't do this to him! Please, no! This one says, damn. Makes sense why Rox took the pirates with him that he did. All COC users, I need that flashback. Me too, brother. Me too. And I do wonder, right? When did they learn about the Holy Knights and how to get around their regeneration? Was it at God Valley? Or did Rox and Roger and the rest of them fight the Holy Knights before in the past, before God's Valley? You know, I wish we kind of got that clarification. Just like, oh, like Rox knew what he was up against, or, ooh, Roger, he's fought these guys before, and this is round 2. You know, I really hope we do get all of that fleshed out. And I feel like we will. Like, there's no way we won't get the God Valley flashback, right? There's no way we won't get the Rox, D, Zebek, and Gold Roger perspective. Or at least I hope. This one says, Shanks just beat the rat allegations, and now they're gonna come back in full force. I've seen them. I've seen people saying Shanks is back on Rat Watch, man. You know, Shanks got the mark from Emu. What is he doing? What's the plan, man? Haki, not technique, gives non-Conqueror's Haki users a fighting chance, which would be fun to see. Yes, this has been a growing theory. Because it goes back to what I said originally, right? Like, oh, what will these Straw Hats without Conqueror's Haki do? But I have seen people floating the idea that maybe Luffy will learn the same techniques that Joy Boy had, where he was able to imbue a rope with Conqueror's Haki, and maybe Luffy will do that for all the Straw Hats. Like, imagine Usopp and his slingshot. You know, Luffy goes over, boom, Conqueror's Haki for you, Usopp. You know, he goes over to Nami. Boom! Conquers Haki for your baton. You can't really do it for Jinbei because he just fights with his fist. But for Frankie, maybe he does it for Frankie's arms because he's all robotic-like. Brooke could do it for Brooke's sword. Robin, also another fighter like Jinbei, so I don't think she can get Conquers Haki. Maybe it's like wrappings, right? Maybe you wrap your hands in some rope and then you're good to go. But yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. You know, just giving the Straw Hats who don't have it Conquers Haki. I'm all down for that. This one says, Kaido said it best, Haki transcends all. I swear, if a war starts before One Piece finishes, Oda better put the written plan online. Gabon to Shanks. Throughout the heaven and earth, you alone are the destined one. Shanks' sword might be a supreme grade with an actual griffin inside it, similar to Shamrock's Cerberus. Shanks probably got the mark and the sword at the same time when he went back. Yes. Funny enough, I actually have a full-on video talking about that. I was talking about how Shanks might have an actual griffin transformation, whether it's his sword, whether it's him. I think it is all there. One Piece, still on a generational run with the bombshell chapters every time. Gabon knew Zoro had Conquers Haki because he scuffled with him along with Luffy. Gabon never scuffled with Sanji, so he wouldn't know if Sanji had it or not. Hey, I think the reply right down below sums it up well. This is my type of cope. Yeah, I'm eating that up right there, brother. Yeah. Maybe that's it. You know, maybe, fingers crossed, headcanon time. But maybe Scopper witnesses Sanji's battle and he's like, wait a minute, do I sense another conqueror? And then that's when Sanji awakens. Man, I can already see it. I mean, hey, Sanji getting King's Haki, not crazy, right? I mean, Sanji's technically a prince. I mean, it's in the bloodline, really, when you think about it. Oda, trolling Sanji fans this chapter. Yeah, Oda knows what he's doing. Oda's probably laughing in the office right now. Sanji raises his hand. Gabon says, you're not that guy. I cannot wait for Kid to defeat one of the Holy Knights to regain his confidence and go get two-shot by Shanks this time. No, we can't have that again. I mean, knowing Kid's character, he would want to fight Shanks again, but at this point, man, just stop fighting the destined one. You know, go fight somebody else, please, Kid. And I would love it if Kid actually did get a fight in with the Holy Knights. I think that's the best way to bring him back, because if not the Holy Knights, what else is Kid gonna do? You know, he's out of the race for the One Piece. He can't get that. You know, I really don't think fighting Shanks a third time would be smart. So please, Kid, please just join our side and fight a Holy Knight, for God's sake, you know. Come on our team, brother. This one says, I believe the reason Oda did this is to have the other Straw Hats realize they need to get stronger. They have all been stagnant. I agree. But I think the problem is that you can't just get Conqueror's Haki. You know, based off of what we know, you either need ambitions of a conqueror or you're just born with it. So I can't imagine, you know, Jinbei, for example, saying, I need to unlock Conqueror's Haki, and then he unlocks it. I feel like that's not the case. Like, I feel like it's very selective, unless Oda changes that, right? I think that'd be fine. But yeah, I don't know how the Straw Hats can gap that. Like, the Straw Hats who don't have Conqueror's Haki right now, like, I can't imagine them just unlocking it randomly. Sanji, I can believe. Usopp, I can believe. But Brooke, for example, could we actually see Brooke unlocking Conqueror's Haki naturally? I don't think so. I'm open to it, but I just can't see it right now. The rest of the Straw Hat crew will be tasked with important things, like either saving, freeing, or taking control over or leading a charge to take control of the legendary weapons. Okay, so like the ancient weapons. That's not bad. That's not bad. This one says, and I guess we'll end it off right here as well. You know, we've been going on for a minute. This basically confirms Sanji will awaken Conqueror's Haki later on. Oda dropped a major hint with that scene. And I mean, I've already repeated myself a million times, but you guys know how I feel about that, you know? I mean, if the former wings of the Pirate King had Conqueror's Haki, it would be crazy if the current wings do not. Zoro already has it. Might as well just give it to Sanji, right? We can't have Sanji be useless in a battle. We really can't. All right, I lied. We're going to go ahead and get one more comment in here. They say, even though I had a feeling Conqueror's Haki was going to be the way to bypass the immortal hacks, I just wish it was something more unique, so the other Straw Hats and Revs could actually fight the Holy Knights. This reveal does at least confirm in my headcanon that Sabo is getting Conqueror's Haki. Yeah, imagine that, right? Imagine the opposite. Sabo doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. Brother, he can't fight the Holy Knights then, you know? Like, bringing Sabo would be like, yo, like, what is he doing over here, man? You know, he could fight them, but if he does, they'll just keep on regenerating and it won't really matter. And that's why I think the Revolutionaries fighting the Holy Knights has just become more and more silly of an idea. Because Ivankov doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, Karasu doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, Bello Betty doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, Morley doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, Lindbergh doesn't have it, and Sabo, for the time being, doesn't have it either. So if the Revs really do fight the Holy Knights, how's it gonna go down, right? Like, maybe they have a way around it. You know, maybe they have, you know, the Conqueror Haki coded weapons that, you know, people are theorizing about, and I think it'd be pretty cool. Like, imagine Dragon could do that. You know, people are assuming Dragon has Conqueror's Haki. Maybe Dragon is a master of it. Maybe all the weapons that the Revs have actually work. I think that'd be kind of sick, but we will see. Until then, you know, that is all just headcanon and theorizing. But either way, though, thank you guys so much for stopping by, checking out this video on a nice old Tuesday. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will be back when the full spoilers -- extra spoilers drop. You guys take care till then, and peace out.